Önüne geçen olursa uyarır, tamam mı?
Evet efendim, programımıza başlıyoruz. Yabancı misafirlerimiz de olduğu için ve konuşmacılarımız da konuşmalarını İngilizce yapacakları için bundan sonra İngilizce devam edeceğiz. Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Excellency Ambassador Katsumata Takayuko of Japan, Professor Dr. Necdet Ünvar, Vice Rector of Ankara University, dear ambassadors and representative of diplomatic missions, Dr. Kobayashi Masanori and Professor Levent Bilgili, dear students and dear participants, I greet you all with my respect. Welcome to our panel on maritime decarbonization organized by APAM, Asia Pacific Research Center of Ankara University, with the contributions of the Embassy of Japan and Ankara University National Center for the Sea and Maritime Law, DECARBONIZATION. Since 2018, APAM has been organizing academic meetings every year with the proposal and support of the Embassy of Japan to share our views in different fields and to reveal cooperation opportunities. This panel is our fifth meeting. Apart from this, a book project has also been completed with the support of Japanese Embassy. Actually, this meeting was planned to held in February last year, but unfortunately it was postponed to this year due to the earthquake disaster. Previously completed symposium and panel projects are as follows. In 2018, exchange of experiences for the future Japanese and Turkish humanitarian aid and support activities in conflict zones. 2019, the changing international order, the perspectives of Turkey and Japan. 2021, new world in post-COVID, perceptions from Turkey and Japan. And the last one was 2022, from Mediterranean Sea to Japan Sea, maritime issues, industrialization and marine resources. And we completed, as I mentioned before, a book project, Perspectives on Meiji Japan from 150th Anniversary, Selected Essays. We hope that this meeting will also be successful, and we would like to thank the Embassy of Japan, DECARBONIZATION, and our esteemed speakers and audience for their contributions. Now I will give the floor to Mr. Ünal Baylan, Director General for Maritime Affairs, Minister of Transport and Infrastructure of Turkey.
His Excellency Ambassador, His Excellency Rector, distinguished participants, on the occasion of the centennial anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relation between Turkey and Japan, I extend a warm welcome to International Panel on Maritime Decarbonization, organized in valuable collaboration between the Asia Pacific Studies, Application and Resource Center, the Embassy of Japan and Ankara University National Center for Sea and Maritime Law. Today, we have gathered here to address a significant issue in the maritime world, maritime decarbonization. The maritime sector not only serves as the backbone of global trade, but also plays a crucial role in environmental sustainability. However, one of the greatest challenges we have faced today is reducing carbon emissions in maritime industry and making the sector more sustainable. As we gather here today, we aim to underscore the importance of decarbonization in the maritime sector, while calling Turkey and Japan's unique geographical position and maritime traditions. Historically, Turkey has been a bridge between East and West, commanding a pivotal position as a nexus where trade, diplomacy, and legal currents merge at sea. On the occasion of the centennial anniversary of the diplomatic relation between Turkey and Japan, through this panel, we hope discuss the importance and struggle of the decarbonization fulfill their responsibilities more effectively. This panel, which brings together academicians, experts, and industry leaders, presents a significant opportunity to develop and implement strategies for carbon reduction in the maritime sector. Now, I would like to say words over efforts in maritime decarbonizations. Turkey closed the fall of discussion at IMO, and we are part of the most of the IMO conventions. With regards to maritime decarbonization, Turkey remains committed to reducing GHG emissions from international shipping to reach net zero GHG emissions by or around 2050 in line with IMO GHG strategy to address the challenges posed by climate change in the maritime sector. We are working on several initiatives. We developed 4 emission reduction targets in maritime transportations. In this context, we introduced an incentive and support mechanism with the scope of the regulation of promotion of new shipbuilding instead of Turkish flagged scrap vessel in June 2022. Ships larger than 50 gross ton will benefit from initiative. Ship owners who convert the main engines of their existing ships from fossil fuel to an alternative environmental friendly energy source will be provided with a grant from the budget or ministry at the rate of 25% of the conversion fee. The amount of support will be 2.5 times to scrap cost per ton if an alternative environmental friendly energy sources is used in the new ship to be built, including LNG and hybrid systems. We have started to work establishing a system similar to European Union's emission trading system in our country to reduce ship-related emissions to build new generation and environmentally friendly ships. In this context, we aim to reduce emission by renewing the Turkish commercial fleet with the revenue generated. We also completed all green port implementation, which have been carrying out for all port facilities for many years. Legislation has just been published. Within the scope of green port, it will be ensured that at least 5% of the energy consumption is covered by electricity produced from renewable energy sources. Electricity provided to ships from coastline, wastewater is recycled, afforestation projects are carried out, cargo handling equipment is replaced with environmentally friendly ones, and incentive and support mechanisms are established for this. In the near future, we can consider that the most significant issue affecting global maritime trade will be mandatory implementation of new rules due to climate change. Turkey is an important maritime nation. Taking this opportunity, I would like to share some information regarding our activities. Nearly 86% of Turkey's foreign trade by volume is transported by sea. In the last year, more than 521 million is also one of the leading seafarer nations with over 140,000 providing training and 103 training institutions in Turkey. Also placed on the white list IMO, 37 countries currently compensating Turkish seafarers. Also, Turkey is an important flag state with a merchant fleet of over 2,000 vessels, over 120 gross ton, and the total tonnage of the 1,000 gross ton and above. Turkey controlled fleet about 49 million deadweight ton. It means it is the 12th largest fleet in the world. In conclusion, I would like to extend my gratitude to all those contributing to this valuable panel. I hope this panel provides to be informative and productive for all esteemed speakers and participants. With sincere regards.
Yes, I would like to invite our rector, Professor Dr. Necdet Ünvar, to make his speech now. Sayın Hocam.
Çok değerli Japonya'nın Türkiye Büyükelçisi, Denizcilik Genel Müdürümüz, İçişleri Bakanlığı Bilim ve Teknoloji Özel Koordinatörü, çok değerli konuşmacılarımız ve değerli katılımcılar, Ankara Üniversitesi'ne hoş geldiniz, sefalar getirdiniz.
His Excellency, mikrofon arkadaşlar, orada mikrofon. His Excellency and Japanese Ambassador Tatsumata-san, His Excellency Mr. Ateş, and dear participants.
Bu yıl 2024 yılı Türkiye ile Japonya'nın diplomatik ilişkilerinin 100. yıl dönümü.
And this is the 100th anniversary of beginning of Turkish-Japanese diplomatic relations.
Türkiye ile Japonya arasında hem diplomatik hem de eğitim alanında çok önemli işbirlikleri var.
There are very important collaborations between Japan and Turkey, not only about diplomatic relations but also educational areas.
Sadece Ankara Üniversitesi olarak 13 Japonya Üniversitesi ile ikili işbirlik protokolümüz bulunuyor.
Only Ankara University has more than 13 agreement with Japanese universities.
Bugün yapacağımız toplantı Türkiye-Japonya diplomatik ilişkilerinin 100. yılına atfedilen yıldaki ilk toplantı.
This is our Ankara University's first facility on the 100th anniversary of Turkish-Japanese diplomatic relations.
Böyle önemli bir toplantıya ev sahipliği yapmaktan çok büyük memnuniyet duyuyoruz.
And we are very happy to be the host of this organization.
Ankara Üniversitesi'nde çok önemli iki tane birimimiz var. Bir tanesi DECARBONIZATION, Denizcilik Hukuku Araştırma Merkezimiz.
We have, very important centers at Ankara University, and one of them is DECARBONIZATION, Faculty of Maritime. I forgot the long name of the center, but DECARBONIZATION.
Türkiye'nin ulusal ve uluslararası düzlemdeki deniz hukukundaki en önemli merkezi.
The most important center in Turkey on the international and national maritime law issues.
Bir diğer önemli merkezimiz Asya Pasifik Araştırmalar Merkezi APAM.
And the other important center is Asia Pacific Research Center of Ankara University, APAM.
Her iki merkezimizin de devletimizin önemli kurumlarıyla ve kuruluşlarıyla eğitim kurumlarıyla çok yakın bir işbirliği içerisinde olduğunu söyleyebilirim.
Both these centers have deep collaboration with our governmental bodies and our other educational bodies in Turkey.
Bu iki önemli kurumumuz böyle bir toplantıya ev sahipliği yapıyor.
These our important two centers are the host of this important meeting.
Bu toplantıda uluslararası panelde Sayın Kobayashi ve Sayın Bilgili konuşma yapacaklar.
At this international panel, Mr. Kobayashi and Mr. Bilgili will make their speech.
Türkiye-Japonya diplomatik ilişkilerin 100. yılı sebebiyle böyle önemli bir panel burada düzenleniliyor olması aslında hem DECARBONIZATION hem APAM'ın da bulunduğu Ankara Üniversitesi için çok mühim bir panel.
It's a very important thing for Ankara University, which has DECARBONIZATION and APAM on the 100th anniversary of Turkish-Japanese relations.
Ben de bir başka önemli toplantıyı yarıda bırakarak Sayın Büyükelçinin konuşmasından sonra tekrar ayrılacağım. Değerli konuşmacılarına çok özür diliyorum onları dinleyemeyeceğim için ve değerli genel müdürümüz ve koordinatörümüze.
I'm very sorry. I would like to ask permission from His Excellency Ambassador and General Manager because I left the meeting and I have to go back to this meeting. I just here in order to salute the participants.
Son olarak dışarıdan gelen konuklarımıza bu içinde bulunduğumuz binanın yani Ankara Üniversitesi Hukuk Fakültesi'nin Atatürk'ün kurulurken çok büyük mesuliyet yüklediği, çok önemsediği bir kurum olduğunu da ifade etmek isterim.
Lastly, I would like to express that the founder of Turkish Republic, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, for him, this faculty and this building was very important. So he targeted many goals to this, body I would like to mention to you.
Tekrardan Sayın Büyükelçilere, Sayın Genel Müdürümüze, konuşmacılarımıza ve katılımcılara saygılar sunuyor. Panelin başarılı olmasını diliyorum.
I would like to, express my best, salute wishes for His Excellency, for his General Manager, and the other participants. Thank you very much.
Hoş geldiniz.
Very welcome. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Thank you very much. Sorry. Finally, I would like to invite the Ambassador of Japan, His Excellency Katsumata Takahiko, to make his speech. Thank you very much, His Excellency. Please.
Merhaba, hoş geldiniz. Professor Dr. Necdet Ünvar, the rector of the Ankara University, and professors and the guests from the ministries, and my diplomatic colleagues and students. We are very honored to organize an international panel discussion with APAM here at Ankara University under the auspices of the Embassy of Japan. And personally, I'm very happy to be back to Ankara University because I used to study at the Faculty of Political Science in 1983 as a very young diplomat. I'm 23 years old or something like that. But today, in this symposium, we're delighted to invite Professor Masanori Kobayashi, Senior Program Officer of the Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and Associate Professor Levent Bilgini of the Maritime Faculty of Bandırma Onyeli Eylül University as a distinguished speakers to discuss maritime decarbonization. Ankara University Asia Pacific Research Center, called APAM, is one of Turkey's few research institutes focusing on Asian studies. In the past, APAM has successfully co-hosted joint symposium with the Japanese government 4 times since 2018. Japan, an island country, consists of thousands of islands, and Turkey, which faces in 3 directions, such as the Mediterranean and the Asian and Black Seas, have complex issues related to the territorial waters, fishery zones, and boundary demarcation with neighboring countries. Thus, it is important to improve the level of international cooperation. In addition, sustainable maritime ecosystem for protection of maritime resources and the SDGs progression are vital themes today that are imminent matters for both countries. Last year, a joint statement was signed between 2 countries to launch the Japan-Turkey Energy Forum between our economic minister and the Turkish energy minister, aiming to achieve carbon neutrality in approximately 30 years. The theme of this seminar, Maritime Decarbonization, is directly linked to how we can cooperate in the maritime sector, in addition to energy and climate change, to achieve this statement as soon as possible. While Japan maintains strong connections to Southeast Asia, Oceania, and Pacific, Turkey has strong ties with the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia, and 2 countries have the potential to strengthen our cooperation. As historical friends, two countries have already established long-standing friendly relations in infrastructure, disaster prevention, management, academic, and cultural exchange. As the rector referred, this year, 2024, is the centennial of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Japan and the Republic of Turkey. We hope today's seminar will encourage us to strengthen our relationship and promote mutual understanding in the maritime field. Thank you so much. Teşekkür ederim.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Thank you very much, His Excellency. Now, we start to the panel. I mean, our Sayın Rektörümüz toplantılara katılmak üzere aramızdan ayrılıyor. Teşekkür ediyoruz teşrifleri için. Evet. So our first speaker is Dr. Masanori Kobayashi, Senior Program Officer of the Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Japan. Yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for Professor Maritahan and distinguished faculty members and also the guests and also Ambassador Katsumata for your kind words and invitations. My name is Masanori Kobayashi, Senior Research Fellow of the Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundations. It is indeed my great honor to give short lectures, presentations on our research work in connections with the ocean policy and also the maritime decarbonizations. As you see that our office has been undertaking a range of policy research, policy dialogues, and also the project. We've been addressing overarching policy for achieving sustainable ocean management and also sustainable blue economies. We had, for instance, our Oceans conference in Palau. That is one of the closest Pacific Island countries to Japan. Last year, we attended following our ocean conference in Panama. Panama is another very important countries with Panama Canal to support this maritime transport. I just came back from Lisbon. I was attending the World Ocean Summit organized by The Economist. And again, there the maritime transport is one of the topic along with others. We have a high level engagement. You see at the left bottom, our current Prime Minister Kishida was also addressing to one of our events, our chairman, Sasakawa, who was actually in Lisbon this year, this week. And he was also giving us a very strong support to undertaking. He's 85 years old, and this week he announced that he succeeded in climbing Kilimanjaro. And he said that he will be listed as the eldest climber of Kilimanjaro with heart pacemaker. So it's very impressive mentors who are supporting our engagement. When it comes to this decarbonizations, we really look at this renewable energy. And as you can see, renewable energy mainly this hydropower energy is the dominant source, followed by solar, wind, and in terms of the ocean-based renewable energy, it is very limited. And as Director General mentioned, the International Maritime Organization, IMO, has set a clear policy goal that by year 2050, this emission from the maritime sector has to be halved from the 2008 level. Nonetheless, there are lots of challenges we have to do, and it's not that I think Dr. Levent will speak after me. He will talk about this life cycle assessment of this energy. So the energy, it's not that we use hydrogen, but hydrogen has to be coming from the renewable sources. So it should not come from fossil fuel, but it has to come from renewable energy. And when it comes to the ocean-based renewable energy, for instance, solar is one thing, but also solar itself have variations, seasonal variations, and we look at wind, and also I explained this OTEC, ocean thermal energy conversion. There are a few other energies that can be promoted from the ocean areas. One of the kind of condition is that the wind is not available everywhere. Wind is available only in the area close to the polar areas and not so much in the equatorial zones. So the map on the left-hand side shows the blue color in the middle, and yellow and the red and the brown color in upper side or lower side. It means that wind is available in the northern or southern part, but not in the equatorial areas. And when we speak about this ocean thermal energy conversion, this is a kind of technology that requires at least a 20-degree temperature difference between the surface water temperature and deep sea water temperature. That is about like 200 meters deep from the ocean surface. That is about 6 degrees or 7 degrees. So if you want to have a 20 degrees water temperature difference, the surface water temperature has to be above 26 or 27. Can you imagine that, you know, if you go to swimming, if water temperature is 20 degrees, you feel very cold. And that would happen in the many parts, but it is available only in the the tropical zones. Japan is also promoting offshore renewable energy. Onshore, we see lines of the wind farms. We are now trying to go into the ocean to have these wind turbines, either the bottom fixed to the bottom, or the floating. So it will be pegged 3-point, and it can float, and that may be a little more cost effective, but again, this is still at the experimental fields. And for the OTEC, ocean thermal energy conversions, we have one pilot project in Okinawa, the southern island of Japan, and that is very warm, tropical or semi-tropical climate. And the idea is to draw the deep sea water about 6 degrees, and also the surface water about 26, 7, 28. And they apply this warm seawater to the chlorophyll carbon gas, and then this gas is evaporated and the town is starving, and then apply this very cold waters to this evaporated gas and bring it back to the liquid form. So this is a very simple system, but there have to be at least a 20 degrees seawater temperature difference to run this system. And they have been trying to expand this 10 times to increase the capacity. And that can be also a source of renewable energy. And that will be essential to produce green, for instance, hydrogen or green ammonium I just add one more interesting feature is that they have this byproduct of deep sea water, and this deep sea water is useful for instance, aquaculture like shrimp or prawn farming, or cigarette farming, vegetable farming, or cosmetic production, or the teratotherapy recreational use. So they also need to combine both the renewable energy productions and at the same time like socio-economic productive activities in order to enhance the overall socio-economic impact in the investment in the renewable energy. They have a similar project in Hawaii Island of the Hawaii in United States, but they have already proven these technologies. They have stopped producing energy. They're just simply distributing a deep sea water for octopus farming or pharmaceutical productions. So technology is available, but when we want to introduce this kind of technologies, for instance, in one of the small island countries like Palau, the population is about 15,000 people. Maybe it's like similar to the population of your town. And if initial investment cost is like $100 million. So imagine that you need to recoup this $100 million upfront investment from the provision of renewable energy for the population of 15,000 people. And that is just not really feasible. It may take more than 100 years to recoup that investment. This wave energy is also being tested in Japan, and there's a small island in Oita, in the southern part of Japan. They are trying to introduce this electricity for running boat and small vehicles for the tourists. The middle in the bottom, this is Otaru, Hokkaido, and they apply this electric batteries powered boat for tourism purpose. But again, they can carry only 20 passengers, and they use only the canal, so there's no way. So this electrification is still at the experimental stage, and at the right bottom is a photograph of the kind supposed to be used as like a fishing boat. And Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology in Tokyo is trying to promote electrification of fishing boat. But can you imagine that getting batteries for the fishing boat, it already increased the weight, and power is not that strong, so it cannot really go into the sea when waves and currents are really strong. And fishery port has no facility to generate like a solar power, renewable energy. There is no incentives and even investment to install that kind of facility. So it's, even if we can really introduce electricity for small boats, there are so many related infrastructures, related services and business that really have to support that kind of electrifications. And these are the photographs of the island that I often visit, like Palau, Marshall Islands. They have electric vehicle, like Toyota have agreed to provide, it's a Honda vehicle. They agreed to test this electric EV in Marshall Island, but only one car running in this island. Left top photograph is solar power facilities in Palau. But they can generate power, but they say that these cables to connect solar power and battery is broken. So they say that so far they are not able to store any power from this facility. So money technology is important, but money is important, but also the people who can actually manage this kind of technology is also very important. Left bottom is a boat called Nippon Maru, donated by the Nippon Foundation like 30 years ago. They keep having programs, and they want to replace this gasoline-based engines to, for instance, electrified engines or hydrogen-powered engines. But again, investment is very high, and for the passengers, they're paying only $2, $3 going back and forth. So unless there is an upfront like subsidy installed in this kind of services, it's very difficult to convert this engine based on the fossil fuel to electricity or hydrogen. I'm very impressed with Director General's statement that the Turkish government is providing incentives for converting fossil fuel-based engines to renewable energy, but this incentive has to be sufficient enough for the boat owners to change these systems. This is a diagram showing the comparative analysis of hydrogen, ammonium, and ethanol. I'm sure that Dr. Levente may explain a bit more, but there are pros and cons. Like hydrogens, you need minus 300 degrees to keep these hydrogens in the liquid form. Can you imagine how much electricity do you need to keep this hydrogen in the minus 300 degrees? Ammonium, it can be minus 30 degrees, but ammonium is toxic. And some countries ban the use of ammonium in the ocean. So how can we use ammonium when the countries still ban the use of ammonium in the ocean? And so same ethanol is still experimental. So they said that maybe electricity is good for the short distance. Hydrogen may be good for medium distance. And ammonium may be good for the long distance. But we have to look at for what purpose each of the renewable energy source would be beneficial. So that kind of analysis is also very important. This is a World Bank report, the Container Port Performance Index 2022. So you also see that what airline you like to use, yes, you have to use the Turkish airline. Turkish airline has a fantastic services. Same analogies undertaken by the maritime company owners and directors. Which port should we use in order to transport some of the goods? They do this index and they rank the performance of the port. Some of them are Asian ports, some are in Africa. What would happen in the future would be like, 10 years, 20 years. These provisions of hydrogen, ammonium may be an important part of ranking this port in terms of the performance of the services provided for the shipping vessels. I was in Davos January, 2 months ago, and United Arab Emirates, this Dubai Port Authority, they had a fantastic exhibitions and saying that they are ready to invest more in introducing this renewable energy for maritime sectors like hydrogen, ammonium. So they have already doing it. I was in the meeting when the Sri Lankan president was speaking, and he said that Sri Lanka is ready to be a global hub for hydrogen and ammonia. Same was said by the Namibian minister. Namibian minister said they would like to be. And I was at the embassy of Oman last December. Ambassador Oman said exactly the same thing. Oman would like to become the center for providing these hydrogens for the maritime sector. So there may be some competition in the future, but all the countries are still waiting and see who will invest in that kind of issues. I'm also speaking to some of the Japanese maritime shipping companies, and they said that we also need equity and inclusiveness. This is a photograph of Karachi, Pakistan that I took last December. How can we tell them, you should stop using kerosene and they used to convert it to hydrogen and ammonia. When people are still struggling in this kind of boat, they are going out to get the fish. 50 people on the boat. And you know why they're there? They pull the fishing net by themselves. You use a machine, but in Karachi, they use people. And these people, I'm not so sure how much they're paid, but for them, it's very impossible to make a transition to the renewable energy. So this inclusiveness and equity in the transition toward renewable energy or decarbonization is another important point. Lately, maritime people are discussing what will happen with the Red Sea. These terrorists are attacking, they say that Yemenis groups are attacking the ships. So the many companies are now going through this Cape of Horn at the tip of this South Africa. So that is also increasing the cost of logistics or transport. This is a light blue color is a course used by the Chinese vessels. You see left bottom immediately after the launching of this attack by Yemenis, Chinese changed the course of the transport through the Suez Canal to the Cape of Horn in South Africa. What will happen in the future, I'm not so sure, but definitely this kind of geopolitics will also affect the choice of the route and also the possibly availability of facility for providing this renewable energy, particularly hydrogen, ammonium, and ethanol, etc. So we have to really look at this cost and benefit analysis and how we can really change the maritime sector. And we really need like a good policies, finance, investment, and human resource and leadership. That's why we also value the partnership with the university, like the University of Ankara, that we would like to have our leaders and practitioners who understand the importance of these kind of initiatives and make policy and the institutional and the technological transformations toward enabling this decarbonized maritime sector. So again, we really need to look at life cycle assessment, cost and benefit and advantages, and we also need to consider social aspect in making this kind of changes. And the long-term financing is important, and a government policy have to be there, and the capacity building, particularly leadership development, human resource development remain vital. And like our organizations, Ocean Policy Research Institute would be very enthusiastic in sharing a good practice to like introducing electricity or other renewable energy for the ocean areas. I live in Hayama, close to Kamakura, and we also want to see our ocean users to take more actions toward decarbonizing the maritime sector. We have so many programs. Seawater is warming up, seagrass is disappearing. So we really have to take good care of our ocean, and for that, decarbonizing maritime sector is one of the key policy goals. And I hope Professor Bertohan and all others in this room can also visit Japan soon, and we share these common values and promote a friendship between two countries that have been lasting for long and should last for long as well. Once again, thank you for your kind attention.
Domo arigatou gozaimashita, Kobayashi-san. Thank you very much, Kobayashi-san. And as far as I understand, Kobayashi-san invited all of us to Japan with the budget of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Thank you very much. We will appreciate it. Thank you. Yes. So, I mean, we are continue. Our second speaker is Professor Levent Bilgili from Maritime Faculty of Bandırma, 17 Eylül University. Please, hocam, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. His Excellency, Ambassador, distinguished guests, and dear participants, welcome to my presentation. It's a great pleasure and it's a great honor to be here for the celebration of centennial anniversary between the diplomatic relationships between Japan and Turkey. And first, please let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Levent Bilgili, and I'm an associate professor at Bandırma 17 Eylül University. And my field of expertise are life cycle assessment, maritime decarbonization, and sustainability. And I'm holding a PhD degree in naval architecture and marine engineering. So I think I can start with my title. It's IMO's decarbonization struggle from past to present in life cycle perspective. Decarbonization for IMO is a long story, but not that long. But nowadays, it's a very hot topic and it's very important to fighting against climate change because we all have to do our best fighting against climate change. And IMO has a significant role to reducing carbon dioxide or greenhouse gas emissions from shipping. So ships traditionally use conventional fossil fuels as primary energy sources. Conventional fossil fuels are generally consist of heavy fuel oil, marine diesel oil, and marine gas oil. And sometimes we can use gasoline, but it's not preferred in big ships, generally preferred in smaller ships. Because although its energy content is very high, it's not useful for bigger ships who need so much power. So conventional fuels are generally oil-based, and that's why they have so much carbon inside. So when we burn them in internal engines, internal combustion engines, they are produced more than 450 different air pollutants. And some of them are produced in a very little amounts. That's why we ignore them. But carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxides are very important for global climate change. And these are called as greenhouse gases. So we should fight against them. We should try to reduce them. So IMO's main particular goal is to reduce these greenhouse gases with different strategies. Here, the left-hand bottom, I think, is there a laser pointer? I don't know. But here you can see some red lines on the map. These are the main shipping routes, and also that's why in these red lines there are so much carbon dioxide concentrations. So in the right-hand figure, you can see the trend of carbon dioxide increase from shipping. So as you can see in the beginning of this millennia, the ratio of carbon dioxide from shipping comparing with the global producing, it's around 2%. But at the end of this 2 decades, now it's increased to approximately 3%. So here we can ask, why is it so important? Because you can see it's very low, the ratio is very low in comparing with the other land facilities, for example, like aviation, transportation. Because we have to reduce all we can. That's why IMO is struggling to reduce carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions as much as they can. So here's a brief history of global fight against global warming, because IMO struggle used or relies on or depends on previous international and global efforts for fighting against global climate change. The first is Rio Earth Summit in 1992,
In this summit, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change entered into force. It's adopted by United Nations, and the main aim of this convention is stabilization of GHG concentrations in the atmosphere. Then, in 1997, Kyoto Protocol is adopted by United Nations again, and it was signed in 1997 and ratified in 2005, and now it's ended in 2020. So the aim of Kyoto Protocol is to control main anthropogenic GHG, or anthropogenic means human-made GHGs, in ways that reflect underlying regional differences. So it's a very important milestone for us, because Kyoto Protocol says that different countries produce different amounts of greenhouse gases, so they have to have different responsibility levels. Because, for example, in like some African countries, some small Pacific Ocean countries, they don't produce so much carbon dioxide, they don't produce so much greenhouse gases, but the United States produce so much, or China produce so much. So they have to get the responsibility to reduce carbon dioxide. And in 2015, Paris Agreement has adopted. Paris Agreement is another important milestone because it's bound with Sustainable Development Goals, which were also adopted in 2015. Paris Agreement is important because at the beginning of Paris Agreement, it's the first agreement to produce or to present concrete aims or concrete goals to fight against global climate change. So it's our aim to keep temperature rise below 2 Celsius degrees, or preferably limit the increase to 1.5 degrees. So here we can start to discuss on IMO struggle. IMO struggle has begun in 1997 with Kyoto Protocol here. After the Kyoto Protocol, IMO has adopted Resolution 8, and it was just an invitation for IMO to Marine Environment Protection Committee, which is a sub-committee under IMO, to put in force carbon dioxide reduction strategies. It was just an invitation, but it's important because in this resolution, IMO says that, yes, carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases is a significant problem for global climate change. In 2000, IMO published its first IMO GHG study. It consists of some emission inventory because we should know how much carbon dioxide is produced by shipping activities to reduce it. And it also contains availability of technical and operational measures, implementation of technical operational measures, constraints, and some market-based approach. Since it was the first GHG study, it was not so high good quality, but it's a very important milestone for fighting against climate change by decarbonizing shipping emissions. In 2003, a new resolution was adopted by IMO, and now it's not an invitation anymore. It urges Marine Environment Protection Committee to identify and develop action of GHGs by shipping activities. So now we are aware that decarbonizing of maritime sector is a very important thing, and now we should fight against it. In 2008, the second IMO GHG study was published. It was more or less same with the first GHG study. It includes some emission inventory again, some measures, some analysis of technical and operational measures, and similarly some analysis of policy options. But the different thing is, for the second IMO GHG study, is it has scenarios for the future. It means that if we don't act rapidly or immediately, we can say in the middle of the century, the greenhouse gas emissions will increase dramatically. So it's generally considered that second IMO GHG study was the best. So these are the initial efforts for IMO struggling against climate change. In the last decade, IMO has adopted some new strategies for or decarbonizing, fighting forward, the title. In 2011, energy efficiency regulations as adopted by IMO. And in 2013, they entered into force. There are two main strategies for reducing carbon dioxide emissions by ships. The first is EEDI. We can open it as Energy Efficiency Design Index. It's implemented to all new build ships, but not before. It's implemented to new build ships built after 2013. So it doesn't cover the ships before. And the second is SEEMP, and it means Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan. So EEDI is a kind of index like we use in refrigerators. You already know refrigerators or other machines that we use in home are classified from A to E. So A means it has a good energy efficiency, and E means it has less energy efficiency. So the ships are classified from A to E, and if a ship's score is A, then it's okay. But if it's E or D, then we should improve its energy efficiency to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. And Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan includes some management plan, if you can understand, some management plans to reduce energy consumption in the ships during operation, like turning the light off or using more energy efficient generators or some other machines. In 2014, third IMO GHG study was published. It was just the same as the second IMO GHG study. It has also some emission inventory. So as you can see, IMO is regularly measuring and checking, controlling the emission inventory if the strategies are useful or not. It also includes some scenarios for the future. And in 2018, it was a great milestone for fighting against global climate change by ships. The initial IMO GHG strategy has adopted and published. So the main aim that IMO decided is to phase out greenhouse gas in this century. So here you can see IMO was a kind of pessimistic approach to phasing out the GHGs in this century. So it was not sure, IMO was not sure if they can achieve this goal or not. And reduce GHGs by at least 50% by 2050. And in 2020, fourth IMO GHG study was also published. It contains again some emission inventory, carbon intensity, and scenarios for the future again. Initial IMO GHG strategy has another importance because at the first time, IMO mentioned about life cycle guidelines to measure the potential and all cumulative emissions from fuels or from different energy sources. So where are we now? The status quo. In 2021, new energy efficiency regulations as adopted by IMO. These are similar with EEDI and SEEMP, Energy Efficiency Management Plan, but they are kind of different. EEXI now we have, and CII. EEXI is very similar to EEDI, but just one difference. As you may remember, EEDI was Energy Efficiency Design Index, which is implemented to all new build ships, not existing ships. But now we have an index to implement it to all existing ships. It's a very long formula that I will mention here, but now all ships are responsible to reduce their carbon dioxide or GHG emissions. And CII is a kind of indicator. It means carbon intensity indicator, and is similar with EEDI again. All these indicators and indexes has some scores from A to E, and now there's a difference with CII. If a ship has a score D or E, it has to improve its energy efficiency, otherwise it may have a penalty. So now it's a kind of encouragement and motivation. The others are just imitations. So in 2023, EEXI and CII entered into force. And in the last July, in 2023, the second IMO GHG strategy has adopted. Its name is 2023 IMO GHG strategy. It was quite similar with the initial strategy, but just one important and significant difference. In this strategy, IMO has adopted a term, just and equitable. Now it's a very important thing for IMO and the other parties from IMO, because countries does not have similar facilities, similar infrastructures, or similar human power. So in just an equitable transition, it's just like Kyoto Protocol. The biggest countries, the richest countries, should support smaller countries in terms of financial support, in terms of human power, and in terms of know-how adapted. I will talk more about say life guidelines at the end of my presentation. So what was the goals for the recent IMO GHG strategy in 2023? First, we can see from the 2023 strategy, IMO passed to an optimistic approach, passed to an optimistic side, because they saw that their projections is working. So the first target is for the 2030, and is to reduce GHGs by at least 20% or striving for 30%. In 2040, there is a new goal for reducing GHG emissions. It is reducing GHGs by at least 70 by 2040 or striving for 80%. So, in the first initial IMO GHG strategy, as you can see, the main goal was to phase out GHGs in this century. So we had a time until 2100, but now 80% is very similar to, very close to 100. The ultimate year for achieving phasing out GHGs from shipping is now 2040, and in 2050 the goal was changed again, net zero by or around 2050. So as you can remember, in the first initial IMO GHG strategy, the main goal of IMO was to reduce GHGs by at least 50%. But now the goal is to reach net zero. So here we can add some more comments. What is net zero? Net zero means, for example, if you are producing 100 tons of carbon dioxide and emit it to the atmosphere, let's imagine. But you can absorb the atmosphere, you can absorb the 100 tons of carbon dioxide by plants, by photosynthesis, or by some technical measurements or technical operations like carbon capture. So if you reduce the carbon dioxide emitted to zero, then it means net zero. In my opinion, net zero is a room for maneuvering, but it's also understandable because IMO is an international organization and there are so much conflict of interest between countries. So I think they need to use this kind of terms as net zero. So why we should use life cycle assessment? Esteemed Professor Kobayashi mentions in some words, but I can maybe delve into deep more. So there are two main roads for maritime decarbonization. The first is energy efficiency. For energy efficiency, we can make the form better through form optimization, or we can use more energy efficient engines in the ships, or we can train the seafarers to use less energy. It's a way, it's an important way, but it's not enough to zero all carbon dioxide or all GHG emissions. So the use of alternative energy sources the use of alternative fuels is another significant method to reduce all GHGs. Here we can see some alternative molecules such as LNG, ammonia, hydrogen, LPG, methanol, and biofuels. These are all their own pros and cons. Nowadays, LNG is accepted as a good transition fuel, but it has own some cons, which I will mention later. And until 2030, I see that methanol will be the first alternative fuel to be preferred. And after 2030, hydrogen and ammonia will be very promising fuels. And maybe at the end of this century, solar energy or wind energy, they're all renewable energies, will have a great importance for reducing carbon dioxide or zeroing carbon dioxide. The use of alternative energy fuels and energy systems, we say, is important. But if it's really feasible or not. So there are two questions here. How green is green, or jump out of the frying pan into the fire? So in this figure, I obtained directly from the IMO's webpage. There are two main processes for fuel: well-to-tank or downstream, and tank-to-wake or upstream. The downstream process or well-to-tank process generally covers the production and transportation of fuels. And the tank-to-wake or upstream process are generally covered by operational phases. So let's imagine we use hydrogen as a primary energy source in a ship. Hydrogen contains no carbon, which means that carbon emissions will not emit into the atmosphere. But if we produce more carbon dioxide while we are producing hydrogen, so what's then? The life cycle assessment answers this kind of questions. For example, here, as you can see in the figure, there are some other processes until combustion or conversion or operation, like extraction or cultivation, processing and refining, and transport and distribution. And there are all transportation processes between the other processes in the above on the arrows. So if you produce more carbon dioxide during, for example, extraction or during processing or during transportation, then it has no meaning for us to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. So here there's, you can see three examples of LCA calculations. The first is liquefied natural gas, or LNG, you can say, it's short. LNG mainly consists of methane, which is an important greenhouse gas, and approximately 3% of methane is lost through leakage during transportation or during production process of LNG. In the figure, you can see the onboard methane, or it's a leakage from ships. It's an LNG carrier or a ship, I'm not sure, or a ship that are using LNG as a primary energy source. So you can see the leakage. Methane is a greenhouse gas. So if we produce more methane by transporting LNG, then we cannot get good benefits for it. They are generally produced by biomass or biosources that can be used also as food. So there's a question here: what about food security? The world is already has some food scarcity in some countries, so there will be another problem: how many tons of carbon dioxide is produced? So as life cycle now in the current state is one of the main targets for IMO, and hopefully during this decade there will be more and more studies for life cycle assessment to achieve the real decarbonizing. So here's the end of my presentation, and here you can see the references, and thanks for listening. Thank you very much.
Çok teşekkür ederiz. Thank you very much. Yes, is there any question, please do not hesitate to ask. Anyway, then I have a question also. Yeah, yes, please.
Hocanın yanına geçelim. Arka plan, bunu kapat, arka planı aç.
I would first of all like to thank the lecturers. It was very enlightening. I would just like to ask if there is any nuclear perspective in maritime industry, because I have read some articles that I think China has just produced a nuclear-run tanker for maritime transportation. Could this be feasible, or is it too early for it?
Yes, it's a very good point, and actually, we have a debate about this Arctic research vessel, and for Arctic this ice really require lots of fuel, and for this Arctic research vessel planning, there was a debate as to whether there's a merit in using a nuclear power for that purpose, but you know, looking back, this accident that took place 2011 in Japan. This is still a sensitive issue, particularly this nuclear waste. It is very difficult to manage and dispose waste coming from the use of nuclear energy. So it's still being debated, and there's some research undertaken, as far as I understand. In the case of Japanese maritime sector, it's the nuclear energy application. It's not yet considered as a viable option at this stage.
Okay. If you asked this question to me, for example, 3 years ago, I would say it's impossible. But now it's discussing. But now, as Mr. Kovacic says, it's not an option. It's still not an option. But there are some ongoing studies for it. Because it's very expensive and it's dangerous, as you may know. So it's generally preferred by submarines or aircraft carriers. But in merchant ships, yes, there are some ongoing studies, but not so good, I think.
Yes, I have a question. As far as I know, Levent Hoca, you lived approximately 1 year in the decarbonization facility. Are they on good or?
They are completed decarbonization. I think they are completed for some state. Almost completed, yes, in shipping especially. They have some ships operating by electrification, by electricity, and they generally produce electricity from renewable sources like wind energy. So they are producing green, completely green energy. And they have some small passenger ships. They can use also electricity, batteries or hybrid engines, diesel and electricity mixed. And also they have some ongoing projects for ships to use ammonia and hydrogen together, and methanol also. So I can say that they are very high level in all kinds of transportation and all kinds of sectors.
Thank you. Kobayashi-san, what about Japan? What's the situation in Japan now? どうですかね、日本の状態は。
Yes, so like Norway, for instance, this car ferries also being powered with electricity. But in case of Japan, there are a number of short distance ferries operating around Japan, but they're still dependent on the fossil fuel. So in terms of the electrification of the short distance car ferries, it is not at the level that the Nordic countries are currently doing it. And I guess this is a kind of industrial policy issues also. As you know, that the Toyota was a bit late in introducing this.
Made the electric car, so it was something like an unbelievable thing. But now, Sweden is finished it yet. Okay. Thank you very much. So, is there any other questions? Please, microphone. Serhat Bey, teşekkür ederiz.
Yes, okay. This is Göktuğ Kara. I'm joining from the delegation of the European Union to Turkey. And I'm also dealing with portfolio regarding alternative fuels for maritime decarbonization. My portfolio includes, it's much bigger, but it was very good to hear from you today. Thank you very much to Mr. Kobayashi and also Professor Bilgili. And also I have read some of your articles.
Thank you.
Professor, thank you. I'd like to also share a bit of experience because I think to complete the picture of decarbonization, in my view, of course, IMO is the umbrella organization, and Professor provided a lot of very precise information of the chronological is going to make a mate in the past for the industries and also for now maritime is also included in the ETS and it will be effective as of I think now this year and next year we will be beyond the piloting phase and the ETS will be effective to the maritime sector in the European Union and the Fit for 55 package which was adopted and now it's having very ambitious targets under the RED directive for the maritime decarbonization. The landscape is changing very quickly in the EU context, and I'm not surprised to hear a new member state having done already a lot of things. So I think this is an important element, and also in Turkey we are working very closely with the Turkish government for establishment of a pilot ETS. That's mostly the World Bank right now, but gradually this pilot ETS will adapt to the EU, and then we would like to see also maritime sector among the, let's say, initial candidates under the ETS, although now the Turkish government is focusing more on the CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism industries, rightfully so. But I think maritime, as the Director General also mentioned, Turkey is a big maritime nation. It has a lot of importance in the region. So my question is for Mr. Kobayashi and also for Professor, if you allow me. So for sharing information, I take one more question. Sorry, moderator. So Mr. Kobayashi, I think we also have some a project with the EBRD, the contribution agreement. It's a planning project where we are trying to finance some provide concessional financing, loan blended with grants, and we are trying to carry out some projects with the Turkish government and EBRD. For instance, we are looking into options and this coastal tourism, which is very popular in Turkey. Would you see, for instance, that as a candidate for, especially in closed areas, for batteries and solar power? What's the experience in Japan? We are aware that it's not going to work in open seas. We are aware that it's not going to work in long range, but we are looking for instance, sharing of experience. For Mr. Bilgili, Professor Bilgili, you mentioned green methanol, which I would concur that I think it will be the first generation. It's not only us, I think in COP28, most of the shipping agencies, they made a joint declaration, the giants of shipping lines, that it will be green methanol as being seriously considered for the next gen fuel, alternative fuel. And yet the question remains, where is all that methanol coming from? Because when you look at the consumption from the maritime fleet, I mean, yes, biofeed is important, synthetic and processes are on the discussion, but it is really the big question probably of the century for maritime sector, for such a fuel-intensive industry. Where is the alternative fuel coming from? Starting from green methanol, I think we have, of course, green hydrogen is a part of the green methanol, and gradually hydrogen technologies which are setting in. How is your view on bio-LNG, for instance? We'd like to also hear that. With that, thank you very much. It was really interesting and important occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I just mentioned that for my last slide, you see the scenery of my hometown, and there are 2 or 3 dachas And during the pandemic, people couldn't go overseas, so they started doing diving in the area close to Tokyo. So they're making lots of money. And for diving, they just go 100 meters, 500 meters from the coast, very short distance, ideal for introducing this electricity for the power of the boat. I work closely with Yamaha. Yamaha produce also these engines for the boat. There are a few issues. One is that the electric engine of Yamaha 2 times more expensive than the kerosene-based screws, and this cost is the one thing. Secondly, the divers, are they willing to pay this difference if they would like to go out with a boat, with an electrified boat instead of the gasoline-based boat? But this cost, are they willing to pay? The divers, they are a little more affluent than the average people. They pay quite a good amount of money for borrowing this oxygen tank and going into the ocean. So some of them are doctors and high-income people. But still, I'm not so sure to an extent they are ready to pay for that cost. I'm speaking also to the small-scale fishermen. They also go for short distance, but they're also struggling with the daily expenses coverage, and they are not yet ready to cover this high cost of introducing electrified engines as well. This infrastructure I mentioned, solar power, is not available in the fishery port or the small port for the dive shops. So lots of investment and also infrastructure transformation have to be there, for which we need public-private partnership or social collaborations. And that, yes, we really need it, and unfortunately, the experience is still limited in Japan in terms of introducing or applying this electricity to the pleasure boat or recreational activities. But I hope we can create a more pleasant, amusing success stories that we can share in the near future. Thank you.
For the methanol and LNG. Although they produce less carbon dioxide during operation, they are still fossil fuels. So because methanol and LNG both contains a significant amount of carbon inside. So yes, green methanol or bio-LNG would be a good solution for reducing carbon dioxide. But yes, what's the source? How we can produce it? Biomass, non-edible biomass, would be a solution, a good solution. We are now preparing for applying for some EU fund by using biomass to produce biomethanol or green methanol. So it's a major debate, actually. It's still in debate and still in discussion. The answer is actually, I'm not sure if they can produce enough adequate amount of methanol or LNG to feed all these ships. Hydrogen will be a better solution. And as I said, methanol is still producing carbon dioxide, even if it's biomethanol or green methanol. During operation, we burn it and we produce again carbon dioxide. So if we focus on life cycle assessment and the downstream processes, yeah, it would be useful for us to produce green methanol. But it's not the exact solution, it's not a certain solution. For me, hydrogen, green hydrogen, will be the solution, because we can produce hydrogen through water, electrolyzing it, just oxygen and hydrogen. So methanol may be just transition fuel, like LNG. LNG is a transition fuel for 2020s, and methanol will be a transition fuel maybe 2030s. And after 2040, hydrogen will be the great solution, in my opinion. And at the end of the century, I believe that solar energy will be the exact solution for us to produce all these kind of energies.
Yes, please.
Another issue we've been discussing is that the temperature difference in the combustion. They say that the gasoline combusts at 80 degrees, hydrogen maybe 90 degrees. So the engine itself has to be resistant to the higher heat in which the hydrogen combusts, and whether this engine can have the same length of durabilities as a gasoline-based engine. So in addition to this life cycle assessment, we also need the integrated assessment about this device and the equipment, and this heat resistant and the durability is another factor that we have to take into account.
And also, I may add some more points. Methanol is a good solution, but it's a dangerous fuel also because it has a very low flash point. It can flame immediately at the temperature of this wood, for example. So we need safe codes for it. So the main point is to, yes, develop some safe codes first.
So any other questions? Yes, His Excellency. Buraya bakar mısın?
Thank you very much, Kobayashi Sensei and Bilgi Sensei. Sensei means mentor or hoja. Thank you, and that's quite informative. I very well understood that this maritime decarbonization is a rather challenging field toward the net zero goals in 2050 in terms of the inclusive of many small island countries. Financing and the education capacity building, so like that. My question is very rather things. So I think the Japan and Turkey as a major maritime state and a very active member of IMO need to take a good play important role in this field. So what do you think of the possible collaboration or cooperation between Japan and Turkey, and if you have some idea or proposal, I want to know that. Thank you.
Okay. I just mentioned that we are also having a discussion. IMO is an international organization, and they say that now countries that want there 20, 30 years ago quite vocal. I was told that like Saudi Arabia, China, Korea are now vocal, and sometimes it's very difficult to make an agreement among the countries, particularly on decarbonization and the reduction of fossil fuel use in the maritime sector. So some say that the European countries, they would like to develop European standard and as a kind of precedent for some of the IMO member countries to consider favorably. But as Ambassador Katsumata mentioned, definitely Japan and Turkey can develop a kind of partnership to bring this IMO toward the more common and globally agreeable concerted actions in facilitating decarbonizations. And I think that there are two countries really need to play an important role in the IMO discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Japan is one of the leading shipbuilding countries in the world, and Turkey is one of the leading green ship producing countries. And so we can share know-how, how to make ships green, how to produce new ships green. For example, for new technologies, for alternative fuels, for new technologies for alternative energy sources like wind power, how can we use it, or solar panels. And we can also develop some, we can also share know-how on how we decarbonize our fleet. Because Japan, as far as I know, also has a very big fishing fleet to the ocean. And Turkey has also a very significant fishing fleet. So we can share some know-how to decarbonize both fishing fleets. I think we have the strength, we have the knowledge of it.
Thank you very much. Yes, okay. And I think this is the last question because our time is over.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Hamed Ibrahim. I'm a PhD candidate here, and also I'm a Sasakawa Peace Foundation Fellow, Auspice of the Nippon Foundation. I just have two questions. First of all, is on the issue of autonomous ships and maritime decarbonization, especially on energy efficiency in ship designs and operations? That's the first question. The second question is actually about the issue of greenwashing. Actually, something was mentioned about how green is green, and we have tendency of ship designs and operation. What can we talk about greenwashing in ocean issues in general? Thank you.
Can I take the first question again, please?
Issues of autonomous ships and maritime decarbonization.
Yes, there's also strong debate for it. Digitalization and decarbonization is strongly related. There are some studies on it also. I can give such an example like this. If we digitalize the ships, we will use less paperwork, or we will use less some kind of materials, for example. And we will need less seafarers also. So we will need less money also to train these seafarers. But there's also another thing for it, another point. We will need more energy also for autonomous ships, because we cannot rely on just one system, for example, for an autonomous ships. We will have some reserve systems. So there's a debate for it, especially in Sweden, the World Maritime University. But I think first we have to calculate the life cycle assessment. How many paper we will use, how many paper we will give up to use, and how much energy we will use, and how much energy we can avoid. So the answer is, I think, again, is life cycle assessment for autonomous ships. And for the second question, can I take it again, please? Greenwashing. Greenwashing. What do you mean exactly by greenwashing? Because I'm familiar with this term, but I'm not sure.
Greenwashing in the sense that when companies or kind of commercial interests try to use a kind of carbon technology and code it as green technology, kind of. So
okay. Yes, we can adopt these kind of technologies, of course, to the ships. For example, I think it's a good example, carbon capture and storage systems we can use. So in these carbon capture systems, we can use just a system to capture carbon and store it in a tank by solidize it in the solid form. So we can bury it under the ocean, or we can bury it to the ground to get away from it. And some use of energy-efficient generators, some use of energy-efficient systems in ships, also a good example for greenwashing. So they are very similar also to, they're very similar to the systems in land facilities, but just smaller portions, because we don't have so much place, we don't have so much space in ships.
Yeah, I may add that, in the case of a public bus, for instance, in Japan, they have been testing this automatic operation of the small passenger bus. Same can be said for the like a boat and ships. Even if you can introduce this automated autonomous operation systems, it will still require like a human intervention as well. So we really need to look at like entirety of efficiency, safety assurance, and to what extent, as Dr. Event mentions, we can really make a cost-effective operations of vessels. This is one thing. The other thing is that we really intensively debated a few days ago in Lisbon, that we need rare metals for supporting this kind of electrification or even decarbonizations. And the metals really depend on the mining, either in terrestrial forest areas or now the connectivity is proposed for the deep sea mining as well. So we really need to look into the entire system where this kind of transitions can be supported. And for this integrated waste management, or the recovery of rare metals from the discarded electric devices were also intensively discussed. So we really, again, need to look at our societal system where we can really pursue sustainability in an integrated manner. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, I would like to sell 2 neckties. Oh, I'm sorry, not sell, of course. I will present you the neckties of our university today. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your intention. Let's, clap for the
Mustafa, they asked, should I give a present to the professors? I said, no, it's okay. I will present next time. So thank you very much. Hocam size de üniversiteyi kravatını not verirmişsiniz. Çok teşekkür ederiz. Sağ olun. Also together. Burada yapalım şu an. Size ortaya alalım. Vardır seterek. Sırayla çekip nereye bakalım? Karşıya. Karşıya. Evet. Çok teşekkür ederim.
Dinleyicilerimizle bir fotoğraf
Evet, katılmak isterseniz buyurun.
Burada Tayland
Arkadaşım. Buyurun. Tamam.
Öğrenciler.